Our special guest tonight is the youngest woman ever elected to the U.S. Senate, and yet she is Arkansas's senior senator. We welcome U.S. Senator Blanche Lincoln to our 6:30 broadcast. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be with both of you.
All right, let's talk about the latest news, which comes out of your office, and it is that $630 million going to Arkansas farmers, as well as farmers from other states, in disaster relief. But the cynical side of this would be, she's pulling out all the stops in an election year. How do you respond to that?
Well, absolutely not. I had to fight tooth and nail with the Obama administration to get here. I think one of the most important things that people need to know is I'm never, ever going to apologize for fighting hard for agriculture. It's 270,000 jobs in the state, $16 billion into our annual economy, and $9 billion into salary and wages. This is a huge part of who we are and what we do, not to mention the fact that it's the efficiency and the effectiveness of Arkansas and American farm families all across this nation that feed the world. They've seen very difficult disasters in '09 and a disaster program that does not work for Southern growers. My responsibility now as chairman of that agriculture committee is to make sure that if the programs don't fit and work for everyone across the country, then we need to correct them and make sure that they do. In the interim, we're going to make sure that they've got disaster assistance.
Different topic now to the Tea Partiers. They're trumpeting victories in New York, New Hampshire, Delaware, and aside from their primary victories, they all had low voter turnouts. That's not good news to you, is it?
Well, we're working hard to get our voters out. That's exactly what we did in the primary, and one of the reasons we were successful was targeting our voters and getting them out. We want to encourage Arkansans to get engaged in this conversation. There's some very real differences in the candidates that exist in here, and you know, this is all about choices. So I think we're going to make sure that we get voters out, that we want to make sure that they understand that there are real issues here. You know, I don't disagree with the Tea Party folks about transparency. I think it's important. I was the one that fought for transparency in the Senate in the debate on health care, making sure that everything was available for people to see. I think that they're also wise to point out that there's some things that we can do in Washington better. If there's anything I know, it's that I get in trouble in my own caucus. I sometimes get in trouble from the other side, but that's because I'm working to find common ground. They want results, and I want results too. I want us to solve our problems, and the only way we're going to solve the challenges that we face in this country is to find common ground and find those solutions that take us one step at a time towards the issues that will really address the challenges that we face in this country.
And yet, Senator, today on NPR, Donna Brazell, a Democratic strategist, says you throw out the results, you throw out the playbook which calls for incumbents to stand on their legislative record in a midterm election and instead get with the people. You don't necessarily talk about that legislation. Are you doing that?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's important to show people what you have done and talk about that, but more importantly, you've got to be willing to show them what you've done that maybe really did put you in the timeout chair. And I've spent a lot of time in the timeout chair in the Democratic caucus for fighting the administration, the Republicans, and or my own caucus on things like estate tax, on making sure that we're doing the right thing on children's health, opposing the government-run health care and the public option, making sure that we are focusing on things that are really what I think the American people and, more importantly, Arkansans want to see happen. I'm probably the most independent voice Arkansas has ever had. And I think, you know, that's a testament to the fact that I got challenged in a primary. I was too conservative then for the Republicans. I'm too liberal. I must be right where most Arkansans are.
Well, Congressman Boozman would not call you an independent voice, and we'll talk about that coming up.
We sure will. Senator Blanche Lincoln, our special guest tonight. We will have more with you in just a moment. U.S. Senator Blanche Lincoln is our special guest on today's THV at 6:30. Again, thank you so much, Senator, for coming in tonight.
Thank you for having me.
When we last left our story, you talked about being an independent voice in Washington, and yet in the first debate, Congressman Boozman hit you with the fact that you voted over 90% of the time with the Obama administration. Your response, Senator?
Well, I think the evidence, though, really is in what I'm doing for Arkansas. I mean, I have fought them on estate tax. I fought them on EPA, the over-regulation, the top-down regulation that we're seeing from agencies. I've argued with them over Wall Street reform. I had the toughest Wall Street reform bill ever of anybody, Democrats or Republicans or the administration, quite frankly. And the administration wanted to, maybe loosen it up a little bit, as did many others. So, all of those things where I've been that independent voice, fighting for agriculture. This administration, quite frankly, the Bush administration, none of them have been very supportive of agriculture. Nobody understands it. They don't get it. Congressman Boozman doesn't fight for them. He votes against ag disaster. It's a real part of our economy in Arkansas, a real part of our heritage, and quite frankly, it's the only place where you're seeing a trade surplus, meaning that it's the one industry we have where we are exporting more than we import. A great place to help us put our economy back on track. So, you know, I fight the administration, whether it's a Democrat or Republican administration. I fight the Republicans or the Democrats if it's not good for Arkansas. But I do stand up for what's good for Arkansas.
Well, tell us where you stand on the Bush tax cuts.
The Bush tax cuts I supported in 2001 on the individual rates because we actually had 8 years of Bill Clinton and we actually had a surplus. And I thought it was important with the surplus to share that with the taxpayers.
Yes, but with the Republican Congress.
That's right.
You had a Republican Congress.
And I supported them with
okay,
it.
all right.
That was their tax cut. I voted for it because I did think it was appropriate. I do think it's also appropriate in these economic crisis times that we should continue that tax cut for the low and middle income. I think that for the upper brackets, if we can pay for it responsibly, I think we should. The fact is the lower and middle income brackets don't have the kind of expendable income that the upper incomes do. And so they're going to put all that money back into the economy. Whatever that they save on a tax break, they're going to put back into the economy. So keeping that money in their pockets to be able to spend. The upper incomes, they do have more expendable income, and the fact is that they're less likely to put it in there. There was a report this week from Moody's that basically said that. If we can pay for it responsibly, I do think it's important to allow them to keep that. But I do also support things like estate tax, increasing the exemption rate and lowering the interest rate or the tax rate on the estate tax. I also think keeping the rate on the cap gains and dividends where it is now would help us with investments that need to happen in order to grow our economy. So I think we've got to basically keep them where they are and be able to allow people to keep their own money, to reinvest in the economy, grow the economy, and it should be a good opportunity for us.
Senator Lincoln, we are out of time, and thank you for joining us, and we will be watching more headlines coming from the campaign trail as well as Washington, because I know you're headed back up there.
We are.
More voting going on.
More voting going on.
More talking too, because we've got sports coming up with Wes Moore. Thank you.